Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now let's begin my talk with who I was. Now, I thought I was destined for the spotlight. Seriously, I would take my parents' phone and take goofy selfies, thinking I'm some kind of superstar, looking gorgeous no matter what. I did ridiculous duck faces, exaggerated poses. Yeah, I'd say that I'm a selfie queen before selfies were even a trend. I was confident at the time, living a pink life, bubble wrapped well in the loving embrace of my family. So now you all are probably thinking that. No wonder she is such a ball of energy on stage. But my life is not always a glittering rom-com. Things started to change once I entered secondary school. I went from the star of my family's photos to everyone else's shirts. My hair and my clothes? To be frank, I'm still not sure what was right at the time, but whatever it was, I truly wasn't. To someone who grew up in endless love, showered by compliments like who I am, this was a huge shock. Therefore, I decided to seek motivation for a change, thinking that with the new me, I can make more friends, or at least live the best out of my school years. I created a role model for myself to become, to be pretty, smart, and interesting. Like who doesn't? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call extrinsic motivation. When we are driven by external factors, like in this case, the extrinsic motivator is others' recognition. Things started to change once I started using this kind of extrinsic motivator. I applied orange tone makeup because it looks good on others. I studied much harder to be looked up to. I changed my way of talking because I was told that I'm lame. I changed and gave up some of my habits to seek for a sense of belonging amongst the other students. But what I've done, all of them, just didn't feel right. I wasn't able to shift myself from a geeky nerd in American movies to the topic of discussion. Things were pretty much the same, no matter how hard I tried. I felt like a robot coated with different personalities, switching them around whenever I meet anybody. After a period of being constantly powered by this kind of extrinsic battery, the robot broke down. So this is an effect of using extrinsic motivation in the long term. It causes fatigue, burnout, thereby losing the initial will to accomplish a goal. The robot, since it can no longer adapt to other standards, decided to change itself, but this time it's according to its own preferences. The robot switched from an extrinsic to an intrinsic source of battery, started generating new energy. The robot colored itself in its favorite pink color. The robot freed up some space by deleting all of its old coding of its different personalities that it used to behave. The robot killed some virus, which represents negative and unkind comments that it used to remember. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation means when we are propelled by our inner desires, when our actions come from what we truly want. So that is intrinsic motivation. To better understand what intrinsic motivation is, let's take an example. By the show of hands, tell me that you spent countless hours on social media, scrolling on Facebook, Instagram Reel, or sending each other TikToks to maintain your streak. That's a lot. Thank you. So us spending time on social media, entertaining ourselves, wanting to maintain our streak is also referred to as intrinsic motivation. So now we've got an idea of what intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is. Referring back to my personal story and the robot, we can see that when we're aiming at the same goal, a self changed. The two approaches using two different motivations make the processes distinct. While extrinsic motivation shaped me based on social prejudices, intrinsic motivation, it does the same thing, but based on my inner desires. Besides, I also found out that when we are intrinsically motivated, our actions come from our inner desires. We gradually find what fits us most. Like, for example, the robot successfully found its other pink fellas after its transformation. Similarly, this can be applied to everyone's situation. Now, if you're concerned about your future plans, like getting into unis or choosing a career path that would stick with you until like 65, just have a think about it. What do you enjoy pursuing or just simply doing? Well, if you're struggling with finding out the answer for this question, I can tell you 3 magic ingredients to create your intrinsic motivation. 3 magic ingredients. Now, what's the first one? The first ingredient is a sense of security and connection. Like, don't misunderstand. I don't mean that it's the love from your family or your friends, but it's the community. Let's take an example to better understand this. Show me your hands if you have ever been to any form of working or studying space, like a cafe, a library, or just anywhere to study aside from your home. That's a lot. Thank you. So sometimes we are more productive working at these spaces, but why? The majority might think that it's due to the ambience that the location provides, like the silence or the way they arrange their furniture, but in fact, it's due to the community. When we are surrounded by people who are doing the work, we might somehow feel like we want to do our work also. Like, that is how intrinsic motivation can be unconsciously generated. Like, just think about it. If you have no idea about that one code word that all of your friends have completed it, how would you feel? That's pretty scary, right? The second ingredient is competence. So competence is when we enjoy doing something that is not too easy or too hard either. Let's take math problems as an illustration of what competence is. So I know bringing math problems here is kind of weird, but let's walk through some of them. Now, this math problem, ladies and gentlemen, give you a hand if you're willing to tell me the answer for this math problem. Very little to nobody. So thank you, but we now can see that we didn't even think about it. We didn't even think about how to solve it. Why? It's just too complex. We don't even understand what it's asking about. But if we are asked this kind of questions repetitively, we might be bored. Like, we don't want to do it anymore, like everybody knows. So what about this question? This question. Some of you might have seen this question before. Some of you with brilliant minds are nearly there, or you all have known how to solve it, but some of you aren't there yet. But what we all have in common is some level of willingness to solve and to think about the question. Like some level of intrinsic motivation. Why? We all know what the question is asking about. But the answer is not too obvious. So that is how intrinsic motivation can be generated through competence. Moving on to the last ingredient, autonomy. Autonomy is when we do something, but we have to feel like we are doing the thing for ourselves. Otherwise, it would be quite frustrating. Let's take another example to better understand what competence is. Now, listen. Say that you are in a really good mood and are going to sit down and complete all of your assignments. But raise your hand if you lose all motivation the instant that your parents walk in and tell you to be responsible and do your work. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is how we lose competence over something we are doing. Thank you for your hand. So that is autonomy. So people, we all have choices. No matter it's a small action or a big decision, we all have choices. I have choices, and you, my friends, we all have choices. But the important thing here is we have to feel like we have the right to choose. Now, when I'm giving this TED Talk here, some of you might be paying close attention because y'all chose to do so. Y'all chose to come here and listen to this TED Talk. That's your right. But just imagine if somebody sits next to you and tells you that, hey, pay attention. Just pay attention until the end of the speech. How'd that feel? It would be quite frustrating and weird, right? So that is pretty much everything. The moral of the story is, intrinsic motivation shapes us based on our inner desires, while extrinsic motivation, it still does the same thing, but based on our social prejudices. So now, my friends, if you're still unsure about your intrinsic motivation after listening to the ingredients, just take your time and think about this question. If you have unlimited time, unlimited money, and other resources, what would you do? Being able to find out the answer, then it will be your biggest source of intrinsic motivation, and you can start working on it from your day one. Thank you.